Hey everybody, it's Glenn back in this video as 31 Horror Toys in 31 Days continues, and in this entry I've only gone and solved the puzzle box and unwittingly unleashed this terrible trio. They are of course Cenobites, interdimensional beings from both the Hellraiser movie franchise and NECA's action figure series. It's a franchise for which lead Cenobite Pinhead is best known, but let's shine the spotlight on some of those Cenobites that lurk in his shadow. And gent that I am, let's start with ladies first and the female Cenobite. And the ritual mutilation captured here in the sculpt with that exposed spinal column may just make these the goriest action figures that we'll be gawking at in this 31 Horror Toys series. Then the gore continues on the front with a pin through the bridge of her nose, and then that wire contraption pulling back the skin on her neck, exposing her, I don't know, larynx. Anatomy is not my strongest suit, but needless to say, something that shouldn't be exposed. I'm pretty sure in the first Hellraiser movie at least, she's the only Cenobite other than Pinhead to actually speak, which sort of makes her his right-hand woman. And speaking of which, I'm not even sure when I first saw Hellraiser, it even occurred to me that this was a woman. Somehow the androgyny of this character creeped me out way more than any of the gory flayed anatomy she has. The female Cenobite was from NECA's third series of Hellraiser action figures, then preceding her in series 2, let's move on to Butterball, who like her comes decked out in garb that's supposed to mix religious vestments with S&M paraphernalia. Taking a closer look, and he's got a great gluttonous slug-like head sculpt, and I like this expression. It's capturing him as his tongue's about to protrude, perhaps to lick his lips. And he seems like a cool dude rocking the shades, even though they're not resting on his ears, as those have seemingly been hacked off and now blood pours out of the ear cavity. Then on his front, his gut sports a huge ugly gash, and then his apron literally comes loaded with accessories. And these aren't all just simply sculpted in their Marvel Legends Black Widow gun in a holster style, no siree. Mind-blowingly, these are all individual accessories that can be removed. He's got all the tools necessary to tear your soul apart. Now moving on to the surgeon who joined Butterball in Series 2. A Cenobite who was introduced in one of the more recent entries in the Hellraiser franchise, but I don't really remember him, but then I only really remember the first two movies, a little of the third one, then beyond that, the rest have just merged into one big indistinct mess of a movie in my head. I do like the way this contraption is pulling his lips away from his teeth and gums, but then that's something the Chatterer Cenobite accomplish much more effectively though. But his most interesting aspect are his various accessories, his tools of torture so to speak, which come attached to this chain, which in turn are attached to his belly button. What? So these were released 12 years ago, and in some way they do show their age, especially when it comes to articulation. NECA have managed in more recent times to strike a much better balance between sculpt and posability, yet back then they were still very much statues with a few token points of articulation. So for instance, the bodies of the female Cenobite and Butterball have no articulation, they're just big chunks of plastic, and the surgeon does have waist articulation, but then his arms, they just swivel at the shoulder. At least with Butterball and the female Cenobite, they make up for the lack of articulation on the bodies with arms that hinge up and down, and then they have rotation at the elbow and also at the wrist. Then the surgeon has elbow hinges and has rotation at the wrist. Like I said, not much going on with posability, but back then NECA were just trying to tick the box of making a really creepy cool sculpt, and boy did they. Anyway, click this video if you missed my custom Cerberus the Hound of Hades. And stay tuned, as even though Halloween is nigh, I still have more up my sleeve to come from 31 Horror Toys in 31 Days. I hope to see you next time. Bye.